Okay, yeah, so reminder of the three things that I wanted to run us through were one was how do we play with GraphQL? There's a nice GUI that we can use. The second one was how do we do a manual GraphQL query end, and then how do we do a nice sugary GraphQL query from the front end. Yeah. So the first thing, can you start up? We only need the dev server, so can you run npm run start dev?
I've already got it running. Do you want me to stop it and then
just show?
run it?
Yeah, maybe just show it starting so that they know what you're doing. Start dev. What that does is starts the Electron front end, and it also starts the back end. And by back end I mean,
Right.
yeah, it starts the GraphQL server, and it starts, yeah. Okay, so that one there's already running. Oh yeah, you're not. You need to run that from the project. So you need to project repo thing.
Using my own phone.
Probably Whakapapa. Is it Whakapapa order or? Okay. Okay, so yeah, see it shows that there's a server that started, and it started a GraphQL server. Can you click on that link, that server ready HTTP blah blah blah?
Can't, but I will.
Yeah. Is it doing anything?
The playground will.
Nothing on this. I'm seeing nothing on this activity issues. Can you reload the? You see it, Ben?
I think it's you, Mix.
Charisse, can you read? Okay, now we can see it. Okay, so yeah, this interface here is called graphical. So it's GraphQL, but graphical is the graphical user interface for GraphQL. And so this is like a playground where you can type in query and you push play. It'll show you. Can you push play? Cool. So the general rule is that the results come back in the format that you asked for them. So let's do some more stuff. So you wanted to know what else, what other information you could get from profile. Can you click on the word profile or hover over it? And you can see that a type of capital P profiles. Can you click on that capital P profile? I can, but okay. On the right hand side, click the docs button. I think it's docs or schema.
Sorry, yeah.
Can you click docs on the right hand side? Yeah. So see if you can find the who am I query. To you again.
It says my one is green.
Well, let's try something else. What browser are you using for?
Chrome.
Good, because that's the recommended. I need to just jump to something else, so I'll just send another link. Has everyone else got that link?
Yeah.
Hello.
Hey, bro.
I'm not seeing. I'm not seeing.
In the background?
Alana's playing something. Is it annoying?
No, it's very chill. We may have to like jump to you leading the call, bro, if Sharice doesn't have.
Yeah, I'm just going to pause recording as well. Everyone got that? Sharice, are you clicking around or anything? What's going on?
Nothing.
Yeah, I got a weapon. You can also like hide others.
Oh yeah, I think I'll do that.
And then that makes it like not full screen.
Great. Okay. So can everyone see okay? Okay. So where we were was looking at one of the basic queries, which is like who am I? And we use this to just like do things like show the avatar up in the corner. And so Sharice was just looking at the docs for who am I. So there's that tab on the right. And if you click on who am I, it shows that it returns a current identity. So this is, oh yeah, and it shows the different parts of that. So there's a feed ID which you can get. So let's try doing that. Like, can you add to the query feed ID? So not in there, up above line 32, line 3, sorry. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And then if you run that query, yeah.
So can I access this from localhost?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so when you're running, that was the bit that you missed, is like when you're running a dev server, like npm run start dev, then it starts up the terminal and then it says GraphQL server running at, and then it tells you the address, and that's the address you can see, 4000 / but it has to be 4000 / GraphQL.
Cool.
Yeah, and if you go to that with a browser, then you get this nice UI that you can play around with.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yep, I see it.
So let's try some other things. Go in the docs again, and you can see that other things that you can look for are profile. And if you request the profile, then it returns a thing of type profile. So you have to click on that to see more detail about what are all the things that you could get. So in here you can see that you could get ID, you can also get the preferred name, you can get description. So Sharice, do you want to try getting preferred name and description? Cool. Any questions about any of that?
When I'm in the localhost 4000 / GraphQL, and and I don't see any docs or anything. How do I get that to show up? Like,
Have you started your dev server, bro?
yep, I think so. I'll try refreshing.
Right. What are you doing with
I don't know, cool. With yeah. The traders are good. We can hold it as long as you want.
What are we doing with this?
I don't know. I'll talk to you after this call, mate.
Do you want to show us what you're seeing?
Yeah. Can you see my screen?
Yeah. It's a little bit hard to track because you haven't given yourselves names. Can you, if you, and there's like for me there's like a little black box above all the list of names, and then there's like a place that you can give yourself a name so that I can like toggle. Yeah, cool. That's sufficient for me to be able to. So you're on localhost 4000, and can you drag your whole Chrome window slightly to the left?
Oh, I see. There's a little thing. Wow.
This is one of those things with Macs. Like, there's the thing that I do is like double click on the top bar. Like,
Yep.
you know, if you double click there, then it just expands to fill the screen.
Perfect. Cool.
Sweet.
I'll stop sharing now.
That's cool. I thought something had gone horribly wrong. It's like, what? I'm actually like really happy when it's like a simple thing like that and not something like devastatingly fundamental to the application.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. So, yeah, where we were at was Charisse was showing us how to do some basic queries. So, yeah, so with GraphQL, it's got this idea of you request a thing and then it tells you the type that will come back. If you if something is going to send back an object, like profile has all of these different fields on it. If you don't specify one of the things, you get an error. So like, can you in profile just delete all of those contents? Yeah, and then try running it. Try deleting the parentheses or the braces, whatever. Yeah. Yep. So you get like useful errors like this. Okay, so this this query isn't super useful. How about we try out another one? So we're in the process of like renaming some of these. GraphQL basically provides an API, but so we're in the process of renaming some of these. Let's look at views. So views is the thing that like when you start different like whakapapa trees. Well, we're calling them a range of different things. Like whakapapa views is one thing we're calling them, but they're like all of the different trees that you might have started. So do you want to try writing a query for whakapapa view, Charisse? Cool. So that's not super human readable. Those are the like database IDs of each of these views. Do you want to get some, like if we were going to print these out on a screen, we would need to know other things, like the name. Yep. Cool. Any questions about that from anyone?
That's pretty cool.
Okay. What about you, Ian?
Seem to be getting an error. I'm just not too sure why.
Do you want to show us what you're doing?
Oh no, I see what I've done wrong. I still had here on my
Yeah, yeah. You can actually do multiple queries at the same time. So do you want to try that, Cherise? Do you want to put above views, do who am I? And you'll need to put in, yeah. Yeah. So this is the like real selling point of GraphQL is you can cobble together any sort of query you want as long as it's in the right format, and it'll just figure out how to get all that stuff and get it back to you in one request.
So these docs that we click through on the right, is this the entire database? Every field available to the user, or is it
That's right.
every field available total? Like could I see Ben's Whakapapa views from here or no? It's just
Only if he'd. So we're managing access using encryption. So if Ben and you were in a group, a private group, using like a private key which both of you knew, then you would see the same things as him.
Yeah.
If he made it using a private key with me and hadn't shared it with you, then you wouldn't be able to read any of that information, so you wouldn't get the results back. So yeah,
that's cool.
So at the moment, the results that you should be able to get will be the ones that you've created within the application yourself. So this is reading from like your Scuttlebutt database.
Yep. So the data on your computer may have come from another computer, but it's all stored on your computer. Yep.
Cool.
All right. So let's now do this. Let's do some of this in the front end. So like figure out how to run one of these manual queries. Maybe we'll just do this same views query. Let's go. Cherise, can you start the dev server for the like the Webpack dev server, which is npm. What is that? npm run serve. So just as a recap, npm run serve starts a Webpack dev server, and what that does is it watches all of the front-end vue like components for any changes, and if there are changes, then it live updates the bundle and like changes what is shown in the browser. So this is in short, it's for like live updating the interface. So while we're waiting for this, can you take us, Cherise, over to one of the views? So in source, in your So take us into source views, and let's look at. Whoa, this is dense. What's going on? Can you take us to WhakapapaIndex? Yeah. So let's go down into the script part of this. So we're going to write a manual query, and so can you make just below data? Can you make a new thing like add a mounted hook? So this is just a we wouldn't generally do it this way, but this is when this component gets mounted into the interface, it will run this function. So can you just put in there, just go console.log running. Just some string, your favorite string, like hello world or like dog or whatever. Yeah. And then can you take us to a browser or something and show us that? Yeah, exciting. Takes a while, the first time. Actually, we could probably save ourselves some time, Charisse, and like move that mounted thing into just the into the login component or login view, so that we don't have to click around every time. We can just. So this is the landing page that starts when the app starts.
So just out of curiosity, Mix, how long have you been working with Vue.js?
I'd say I've worked with it for like a couple of months. I worked on a previous project. I've like done one hobby project and one piece of consulting with a friend using Vue.
Cool. It's quite nice, I quite
Yeah,
like
I've been
it.
really enjoying it. So that should have logged. There we. It's not logging out running, eh?
Oh, that should have already got it mounted to the-
Oh, I see. Yeah, that'll be getting overwritten. So just put it above line 65. Oh yeah, that'll do as well. Cool. And can we just can you change that word to something else just to make sure that it does live update and run it every time we change that code? I think it does, but yeah. Well, we can just go Control R and to reload, but I think the mounted thing only gets run once and the live update doesn't quite trigger that if the page is just sitting there. Okay, cool. All right, so let's go back now. So to the code. So what we're going to run is we're going to write ourselves like a manual query, which is just a copy of that query that we were doing before. So can you can you go to the playground thing and the graphical thing? Graphical GUI, yes, cool. So can you just copy and paste that query on the left? Yep, just go, yeah. So this isn't quite going to work because this isn't exactly JavaScript yet, but that's fine. Okay, so don't put an equals in there. Yeah, so what we're going to do is put a backtick around this. So can you put a backtick in front of the word query? On line 65, yep. And a backtick at the other end as well. Yep, cool. Okay, and then I don't know how to describe this, but you just type the word GQL, and that makes it we're going to import a module called GQL. So go in the import section of this, can you go import GQL from, hold on a second. Import GQL from graphical tag.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, cool. Okay, so so that is our query. So you can put const query equals in front of that. Yep, and then below all of that, go this dot $Apollo, Yeah. Dot query. And then into that you pass, so this is a function that we're running, and that takes an object. So can you open an object in there? Like object literal, yeah. And inside that put a variable called query. Yeah, cool. So what that does with JavaScript is it'll just take that query that we defined on line 65 and it'll make a key called query and put the value of that in there. So this I think will run, but we actually want to get the results of this. Try going, no, I'll do this the right way, I guess. At the start of this line, can you go const result equals on the start of line 76, and then put the word await in front of that. So await makes this like an asynchronous thing, and it will like that Apollo query is asynchronous and will take some amount of time to happen while it's talking to the server. So we need to change line 61 for this to work. So up on line 61 you go async, and that says this is an asynchronous function, as in please note that we're going to use the word await in the middle of this, and this is like just a different way of doing callbacks, and that is now more common, we think. And then so after this, now you can go like below line 76, go console.log result. Cool, and you can save that and see what happens.
There we go, we got this back.
Cool. So expand the data field, and there's all the data that we asked for. Okay.
Pretty cool.
Any questions about that? Do you want to take us back to the code so we can look at it and people can chew on it?
Yeah, that looks good. So could you, with const result, could you go result.whoami.profile.preferred name?
That's right, yeah. Do you want to try it? Charisse, yeah. Yeah, you can look at the format of the query above, and that tells you the nesting that you'll have. So whoami.preferred name.
Is it .profile?
It is, yeah,
name?
sorry. My bad. Well spotted.
Cool.
Yeah, and so if the query didn't work, it'll come back and it won't have data inside it. So you just need to be careful that you don't chain a result like that. You probably want a line above this. You can go if result.errors, then there'll be an errors in there. So like, can you go comment out line 78 for the moment, Charisse? And then change the query so that below line 68, can you just put the word dog? Or whatever word you want, yeah. Save that and run it. This is like an unrecognized query. And so the result returned like an error. And did it console log out errors or response not successful? Okay, that might have errored a bit harder than I would have thought. Interesting. Interesting. Okay, cool. I would have thought that we could console log that, but apparently it makes a louder error. Yeah. Okay, so This is like a, can you delete the all of the who am I code, like 66 through 71? And can you have the views, change the views so that we get the ID as well as the name? Yeah, you don't need commas, by the way, with that, with GraphQL querying. But it doesn't seem to complain. And can you grab one of those IDs? No, go back to the oh yeah, I guess you could do it this way, yeah. Views 0 square bracket 0 dot ID, that'd be fine. I just want a copy of one of these IDs. Cool. Can you just copy that? Because we're going to do a query using that. So can you just make a variable, go like const, put it above the query, go const ID equals that, yeah. So now we're going to do a query with a variable in it. And this I'm a little bit rustier on. So can we go back to the graphical thing? And we're going to do, can you look at the docs for getting an individual view? I think the endpoint is called whakapapa view. It's that bottom one in the queries, yeah. So you can see on the right there at the top it says the format is, it takes in an ID, and which is a string, and the exclamation point means that it's like non-negotiable, it has to be in there. And then it returns a whakapapa view, which is all of those things that are listed below, like name, description, etc. So we're going to try and write a query like that. We're just going to jump straight to trying to write it in the code. So can you change that line 67 to whakapapa view? And connection's gone. Hi, I'm back.
We lost you for a second there, bro.
Yeah,
You still there?
Yeah, I'm back in, I think.
I'm back.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you. Is Mix, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me, Ben?
We lost Mix as well, I guess. You back, bro?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep, can hear you.
Hooray. Okay, so we want whakapapa view. So can you use curly braces here? You're almost right with that, but and then go name, I guess. I think name was one of the fields. So we need to figure out how to pass in an ID. This is where I'm a little bit crusty. So I think the format of this is a little bit weird, but on line 66 after the word query, you put, hold on, I need to look this up. You put some round parentheses, and it's something like ID colon string, but give me a second. I'm just cheating and jumping ahead. Yeah, so it's $ID colon capital S string. And what that's doing is saying we're establishing a variable that's going to be used in this in this query, and it's going to be called $ID, and the type of it must be string. And then in the on line 67, you put round brackets there as well, and you type ID colon $ID. And so that's saying there's going to be a I think the reason that this is so verbose and weird is because remember how we did a who am I query and a views query? It can be that you want to pass multiple variables in, and you need to say where the variables are getting applied in the query. So this is saying, this will become a little bit more obvious in a second. On line 72 now,
So Mix, if we were to rename the const ID to const ID
oh yeah,
key,
change that to key. That'll make it a little bit more obvious. Yeah, cool. And then down on line 72, can you make spread that object over a few lines now? Can you like put a new line in front of Yep. And then can you add a new variable called variables in there as well? So comma, variables, colon, and then this is an object, and use the word ID, colon, key. So that's saying take that key from line 65 and inject it as a variable called ID into that whole like query string.
are either of those IDs on line 67 related to the key or no?
Yes. So the way that the data flows in here is that line 75 establishes a variable called ID. On line 66, that ID is caught, and it's like, oh yeah, there's an ID coming in here, and it'll be a string, so it checks that the thing coming in was that, and then it's like, oh, where's that going to be used? It's going to be used in this whakapapa view query, and you're going to put it in where that $ID is. So let's just see if this runs first, and then and can you delete line 79 because that'll probably bug out. That's annoying. It doesn't really tell us what the problem was, does it? It says not successful, Apollo error. Can you look in the network tab? And find that. Can you see where it sent a query out? Probably the last failed one, I guess. Or maybe it was that red GraphQL one. Bad request, look at the response. Can you click the response tab, not the headers tab? No, not in there. Yep. Variable ID of type string used in position type string. Oh. Okay, so can you go back to the... I think it's saying ID is like non-negotiable. Can you change that to a string bang, like exclamation mark? Yeah.
Here we go.
Cool, there's some results. Do you want to see what's in the data? Hooray. The data's, the screen's updating really slowly here. I can't really see what's happened, but it looks like a whakapapa view came back.
Yep, like the one we put key in
Yeah.
for.
So let's now mess with the query to make sure that we've understood how this worked. Let's change some of these magical values. So let's change that $ID thing to the word view ID, $view ID. Where else would we need to change things, do you think?
Yeah.
Yep, that's what I would do as well. Where else?
That's all, isn't it?
I suspect we might need to change it on line 75. I haven't tried this. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that needs to be view ID. I think those all need to be the same, because otherwise it doesn't know where it should put that. You're declaring a variable called ID and you're giving it to the query and saying merge these things in. Where would it merge them in?
Yeah.
I thought the ID there related to the ID, the whakapapa view parentheses.
It does,
ID.
but you have to think about this as like a string interpolation thing. It's like I'm trying to place this somewhere. I think I can come up with an example that will make this like more obvious in a moment. Do you want to try running it and see if it works? Seems to have worked. Like if you don't see errors, then it's working. Cool. Okay, so let's can you add a query to this whakapapa? To that query back in the code. I want to now get a profile ID at the same time as this. So above line 67, can you put profiles? And I think this is a. Maybe we should just check the API, but I want to get like one profile ID, but let's get our profile ID. So can you do the who am I profile ID query again? Just so we can get yeah, run that, grab what our profile ID was.
Max, what's the difference between who am I profile and profile?
There are many profiles in the app, so those each of the people, like an avatar within that within your whakapapa tree, each of those is a profile record.
I see. So, like family members that are added to my whakapapa, it's created profiles.
That's right, yeah.
Yep.
And in the future, we're going to be able to search profiles. So it could have been that Ben made a whakapapa record, a profile for your father, and shared it with you, so you could like reference and work on that together with him, as opposed to like both having different records. So yeah, can you copy that key in there? Go const profile ID, just to call it something different, I guess. Yeah, and then can you go in the docs and maybe Ian, while she's doing this, you could look in the docs for like what the profile API looks like. Is it just profile or get profile or?
Sorry,
Yeah.
me. Profile. These like ID type authors can edit preferred name, legal name.
Yeah, but it requires an ID, right? So The query,
Yep.
yeah. So can you let's have a go. Let's have a go at writing that query. It's probably going to need an parentheses there, and it's going to need an ID. So let's put in profile ID. Yeah, good. And then let's just get the preferred name out, which should be Charisse, I guess. Cool. Now, yeah, how do we pass that variable in? Yeah, I would do that. Yep. And then, so that's not quite, we need one more thing. What else do we need?
We have to do it.
Yeah, I think so.
So do we just do it?
I think so. I haven't done this before, so. Yeah, I'm hoping this works.
Hmm.
Oh, did that like that?
All right, can you see if you can deduce what? Oh,
It did work. I didn't know what it was.
cool. Okay, so it got us a, yeah. Yeah, it got us both of the things that we asked for. So if we go back to the code, I'm hoping the like weird $ syntax will make more sense now. So what it says is, look, there's a query, and this is like a fixed query that's being generated so that we don't have to keep generating it. And that's being generated by that GQL template string thing. And then it's saying the query is going to take in a range of variables, and those are the things that are defined on line 67. It's going to take in something called view ID and something called profile ID. And those are what's being passed in by lines 78 through 80. So 78 through 80 really have to match up with 67. And then from there it's saying, okay, within this query, you've been given these variables. Here's where I want you to insert them into that GraphQL. So the view ID that was passed in on 67, I want that to go in line 71 as the variable that's going into that query. And the reason, yeah, and so, yeah, because otherwise it wouldn't know, should I put that view ID variable, should I put that on line 68 or 71? But having this unique key with this weird $ thing helps it map those incoming variables into this, like, could be a really deeply nested query.
You know, it's cool. Makes
Yeah,
sense.
this is great.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about this until I tried to describe it, so it's I'm learning heaps too. Any questions about any of this query?
Just only that const key and const profile ID, we've hard coded that in there. You'd typically get that dynamically from another Apollo
Yep.
query.
Yeah, well, yeah, so the way that we do this is, now I think what we can do is actually just jump to seeing how things are done in the code. So what we've done is, like, I've shown you how to do a manual query with this.apollo.query. There's actually some extra sugar that is provided by Apollo in the view context. So can you take us to the WhakapapaIndex?
Could you just hold that, Charisse? I'm just going to grab a screenshot.
We're also recording this, Ian, so we'll have a video of it.
Oh, yeah, all good. Cool.
Yeah, so can you look at WhakapapaIndex.view? So so here's something different. Like, let's look at that who am I query on 64. See, inside this view component, there's this like Apollo key, and then inside that we've got this other thing. So like there's this who, we're saying I want to do a who am I query, and then inside that there's a thing for the query, and it looks really similar to what we just did. But notice there's no this.apollo.whatever.query. what this magically does is it says, if there's stuff stored in this Apollo key on line 63, can you just run those queries, please, as soon as this page is loaded? And further than that, run the query, and because you've nested the query under line in 64 as who am I, can you take the results and as soon as they come back, store them in the data under who am I? So that's like what that line on 57, see there's like an empty who am I? That's like a placeholder waiting to be filled.
Yeah, nice.
So there's a couple of gotchas with this. One of them is that the result, you remember when the results came back, they come back as this.data.whoami? Well, these results will come back as this.data.whoami as well. And so the word on 66, the who am I, has to match the word on 64, which is who am I, which has to match the word on 57, which is who am I. Otherwise, it doesn't know where it should put the data. So, so if you changed line 65 to be like load profile, if you changed line 64 to read load profile, can you do that, Sharice? Yeah, if you change that to load profile, then this will break. Yep. There's a way to get around it though. You can say, so if we change line 64 to load profile, then 57 should also be load profile, because the results will go there. But because the data has no result called load profile in it, what we need to do to modify this would be add below query, below 70, you add a function called update. Go just function, just like that is good as well. Yeah, and update will receive the data that comes back from this. Can you put data in as an argument in the and then go return data dot who am I. Because it can't find data dot load profile, you have to tell it, I want you to take data dot who am I and use that as the results that you stick in load profile.
Nice.
So mostly you don't need to know this, but it's just I wanted to mention it as a passing. So any questions about that?
No, it looks good.
So can you undo that thing there?
Does the you know how we were doing passing the variables to the
Yes.
query? Is it? Can you also
Great
do that
question.
here?
We'll get to that in a moment. So yeah, that should be who am I? Yeah. So the question you asked before, Ian, was like, how do you get these IDs to start with? Well, when the person enters the app, then they come to this WhakapapaIndex page and see it runs another query in Apollo on line 73 called views. Well, it gets all of the views, their IDs, their names, their descriptions, and then loads those into the views on line 55.
Yeah, so now we've got it all in the
So
data.
we've got it all in the data, and then if you go up into the template part of the page at the top,
view in
yep.
views.
So now we're iterating over the views, and you can see there is a link on line 6 which says, this is like a fancy thing that comes from Vuetify, but it's like,
It's a
so this makes an href around that whole card, and it says, take me to the WhakapapaShow page with this ID.
View.id, yeah.
So now can we go over and look at, I'll pause there and then we'll jump to like what it looks like when you're on the WhakapapaShow page. Does anyone have any questions about this? Ben, we haven't heard from you in a bit.
No, it's cool. I'm looking forward to putting in like a.
Nice. And Sharice, do you have any questions?
that.
Okay. Can you take us to the WhakapapaShow view?
So that the params that's being taken to the WhakapapaShow, is that like a route?
That's right, yeah. So if you look at the router file, it that'll help you connect those dots.
Yep.
Okay, so in here, we're in WhakapapaShow. Can you look at the Apollo section here? So here's Apollo. So let's just have a read of this all quietly and then see if we can take a guess together. Okay, who'd like to have a go at interpreting this and like noticing differences?
I think at 110, this .route.params ID is bringing in the parameter, which from the two.
That's right, yeah.
Is that right? And that's been used as our ID, which has been, it has to be a string.
Were you saying that it has to be a string, just to be explicit?
Line
That's where it's
102.
getting passed in, yeah.
And then the reference on line 103, it's referencing, hey, I'm going to get an ID for the Whakapapa view, and I want to get the name, description, focus, and receipts.
Correct, yeah.
Right? I guess where I'm just getting a little bit thrown off is where that gets returned to Whakapapa view function on line 100.
So this is a different sort of query. Like if you can you go back to where you were? Can you just pausing there? Look at the Whakapapa view Apollo query on 100 versus the who am I query on line 114. Can you see that one of them's an object and the other one is a function? So the reason the one on 100 is a function is because we're wanting to do some dynamic things inside there. In particular, we want access to the this context, and so this in Vue, if you want to access this $route is like a thing which is attached to the Vue instance, and so to get the Vue instance, you need to be inside a function. Like Vue just magically attaches it to all functions. So that's the reason that line 100 has to be a function. If we took out the function and made it just like Whakapapa view open object, and then didn't have a return statement or whatever, then this would like refer to that object, and this $route wouldn't exist, and then this wouldn't work. So this is like a fancy, but there's other fancy things that you could do, like you can, below line 100, you could do some logic. You could say, if this, do this, if something else, run this other query. So the return on line 101 is saying like, now you need to return the same thing as like, you still need to return the same thing as kind of like on 114, but you have an opportunity to like get some other variables that you may not have had access to if you run a function. And so the results don't get returned by this. This is just returning still what the query should be that Apollo should be running. The results from this are magically Apollo goes, it's like, you're doing a Whakapapa query. You're trying to fill a variable called Whakapapa view, which is what you define on line 100. And then you do that query, and then the results come back, and then it magically goes looking for data.WhakapapaView. So now can you scroll up a bit, Charisse? And there should be a WhakapapaView. Yeah, there's a placeholder waiting to be like overwritten.
Yeah.
So this is best practice, is like put in a placeholder value that'll be overwritten once the query comes back. This does two things. One of them is like it shows the word loading, and like the logic and stuff doesn't break if something in the template looks for it. And the other one is it helps developers connect those dots and go like, oh, the Apollo stuff is going to land here, and these, oh yeah, that's where that's coming from. Cool.
Yeah. So if there were extra fields to be coming in, other than name, description, focus, and receipts, it would still be fine. They would still come in, like it's not typed or anything else.
I think if you don't, like if we took out description and focus, I think this would still work fine. Yeah, it'd work fine. It's just if you have logic, I think they get entered as null or something. I don't know.
No, it's cool. It does. You're right. It does help with readability and stuff.
Any questions from you, Charisse?
No.
Ben?
No. Just checking out, like there's that dialogue. That's where we're opening up the different modals.
Yeah, that's tracking like which of them dialogue modals is open. If you toggle those, then it pops the things up.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think I do have some questions around like what's focus, what's receipts, but that can just be something I can like have a look into.
I can tell you really quickly. The focus is just the word that I chose to describe like where is the center of this graph, like who is the focus, as in like imagine you're pointing. Focus is a word that means like kind of the center around which things swing. So like the I can't come up with a good analogy on the go, which maybe isn't a good sign, but
I think it was there like a reference to like perspective of
exactly, right? So who are we focusing on? In my case, when I built a Whakapapa tree, like one of the trees I built was like all the descendants of Laurie Irving, who's my grandfather, and so he's the focus. It's like the starting point from which we're building. Cool. And so that value is just an ID, his profile ID actually. And then the only mode we have at the moment is descendants, which is like get Laurie's children, get his children's children, and just load them all into the graph. Yeah. And recips is a variable name that comes from Scuttlebutt, which is a shorthand, which is short for recipients. And recipients means who was this encrypted to. So at the moment, the Whakapapa view records will just have, it's just an array, and will have just yourself in it.
Yeah.
In the future, it will have like a group key in it, which will say this can only be viewed by my family.
Cool. That's cool.
Okay. I think what I want to do is probably close there, but I want to just do a final recap just to remind you of all of the things that we just learned.
Would it be possible, Mix? Last night I did some UI. I added a edit and delete the WhakapapaIndex, just a pencil icon and a bin icon. Would it be like much more of a stretch on what we've learned today to actually edit or like to actually manipulate the database?
Yeah, good question. Yes, no. So you've got all of the pieces that you now need to know. So I think what I'd rather do is point you at a specific file to go and have a look at, because there's an example of deletion that's been built and then you can see. So the only thing you really need to know is that, or maybe you could take us over to graphical again, Charisse.
I guess it'd just be, instead of query, it would be something else.
That's right, yeah. It's called a mutation. So the reason they call these things like completely different things is so that you don't accidentally run the wrong thing, I think.
Yeah.
So if you open the docs there, Charisse, there's the queries, and if you scroll down, you can see a range of mutations. So we're still tidying up some of these, but like update profile, like have a click on that. That doesn't seem quite... Oh, okay, so update profile takes as an input update profile input. So can you click on that? And these are the things that you can set. So currently the way that we're doing mutations, the way that we're doing deletions is something called a tombstone. So a tombstone is, because in this context you can't remove data, all you can do is put a tombstone on it which says this has been deleted. So consider it gone. So if you click on tombstone input, it just takes a date, I think. So if you search the code base for the word tombstone, you'll see one of the features built around this. So you'll be able to delete profiles, but you won't be able to delete whakapapa trees at the moment, because tombstone isn't something that exists in this is only an update profile, and we need it in update whakapapa as well. Yeah. So I think that's like enough for you to go and have like a bit of a read around and then come back with some questions. Is that all right?
That's cool. With from WhakapapaIndex, we've got a list of Whakapapa. There's no point trying to delete the Whakapapa because there's no mutation API.
That's correct. Not yet.
And so if I was to edit, say, the name and the description, would I be looking at update, save Whakapapa?
That's right, yeah. Do you want to show us that, Charisse? Can you look at the mutations for... not that. Save Whakapapa view, yep. So this takes an input. Do you want to...
Cool. And so you'd they'd click on the edit pencil, it would open up a edit dialog. You'd somehow capture the ID, name and description, and then do a GQL mutation.
That's right, yeah. And then the instead of this $apollo.query, you send it to this $apollo.mutation. But you can have a look for tombstone, for example, and you'll see if you can follow the trail of logic through the app, and you'll see you'll see like references to mutation.
Sweet.
Mix, there was one other thing I was going to ask
sure.
for, and we're going to do this now. But a walkthrough through Storybook and how you're currently using it, like how we don't have to do that now, but maybe booking another time, or perhaps I'm just thinking, bro, like doing a video might be really cool.
I can just do a real quick video of it. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, and like how just like illustrating how you would like us to be using it as well as we code. I know we're talking about like writing tests for everything. And that,
I think it'll just mean that we can. I'll talk about the advantages of it in a video.
Yeah, sweet, nice.
Okay. Any other final questions?
No, but thanks, Mix. That was really interesting. That's the first time I've really seen the behind the scenes of GraphQL. So for that, you explained it really well too.
Oh, cheers,
so,
thanks.
Thank you.
So,
I have one around. Say if we were trying to edit, add like date of birth and stuff like that, date of birth, date of death, other things to that. How do we change like the schema of
Yeah,
these
I think
things?
that's like another conversation. So like who gets to define these things? It's actually not that complicated. I'll point you at the file and not tell you anything about it, and you can go and read it and have a guess. So
Yeah, cool. Why not?
Cherise, can you go and look at the GraphQL folder and the code? So the reason I'm like kind of giving you not complete answers at this point is I think you've got enough to go and explore, and also like I don't want to do more than an hour right now because otherwise it will just start like dropping off your head, like out of your heads. So yeah, in the GraphQL folder there's a typedefs thing, and then there's also like a resolvers thing.
Yeah, cool.
Go have a tutu. See if any of this makes sense. The further you go into this, the closer it gets to, like this resolvers file is starting to interface directly with Scuttlebutt, so it starts to get a lot more dense on that front.
Yeah.
So I don't expect you to like immediately understand all the stuff in the resolvers. That's like quite a lot to. It's another whole piece to take on.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to move towards like summarizing. I just want to like say the three things that we did to like remind us. Graphical is the GUI. So like if you go to that localhost 4000/GraphQL, then it gives you an interface. The interface does two really nice things. It lets you post queries. It actually lets you post mutations as well. Be very careful because you will start posting data into your database if you run a mutation in here. The other really powerful thing about this is the docs. It's a really nice way to explore the types in quite an interactive way, as opposed to if you look at the code, then you have to kind of just keep scrolling around to understand things. So the docs are derived from that code in the GraphQL folder. The second thing we learned how to do is how to manually do an Apollo query. So that was where we did this $Apollo, and then we passed in a query. We did that in two different ways. We did a query which had no variables, and then we did a query which had a variable. And we explored like why the queries have like weird dollar signs and stuff. And the final thing that we learned was how there's this magical sugary like Apollo property in the in templates and components in Vue, and if you put things in the right way, then it just magically goes and gets the data for you and removes a bunch of the like repetitive code and just inserts it into the data. I think that was about it. There were two minor gotchas. One of them was like you just need to make sure that if you're using the magical Apollo sugary magical gets the data for you thing, all of the names need to line up. The second gotcha was if you want to use like variables like this router, then you need to be dealing with a function instead of an object. And I think that was everything that we covered. So we covered quite a lot. And yeah, I'll post this video up and give you the link shortly.
Cool.